And speaking of India acting decisively, will the UK get a sample too? I ask this because a report has been making the rounds since yesterday. It says India is halting trade talks with the UK over Khalistani attacks. This was reported by the British media outlet The Times. It said India was angry because Britain had failed to crack down on the Khalistanis. Remember, India has come under attack in London. Khalistanis ran riot at the Indian High Commission last month. They tried to desecrate the Indian flag. New Delhi has been demanding action against them. It also identified the attackers and filed cases against them. Now, The Times has published this report. It says India will stall trade talks until London cracks the whip. Hours later, Indian authorities weighed in. They're said to have called this Times report baseless. No formal statement has been issued yet. The Indian denial was conveyed through an anonymous government source. And then a statement came from the UK, from a spokesperson of the Department for Business and Trade. This is what it said. Both the UK and India are committed to delivering an ambitious and mutually beneficial FTA, that's free trade agreement, and concluded the latest round of trade talks last month. So apparently the trade talks are on as scheduled. A British parliamentary delegation is also in New Delhi as we speak. This is to discuss trade and research opportunities. Also, the Free Trade Agreement, or FTA. This is the first UK parliamentary visit to India in 6 years. Clearly, the trade deal is important. It's basically a UK-India Free Trade Agreement, or FTA. It's a way to facilitate trade between the two countries. And how do you do that? By reducing import tariffs. They'll also be able to sell each other goods and services in previously restricted sectors. The details are still being worked out. The FTA was proposed last year in June by the Boris Johnson government in London. And the UK has been very keen on it, especially after Brexit. Remember, they've had to leave the common European market, so they must secure bilateral trade deals to make up for it. The UK has approached Canada, Australia and India with new trade deals. And with India, they see a lot of promise. Even without a trade deal, bilateral trade between India and the UK was worth over $42 billion last year. It grew by $12 billion since 2021. It's a growth of over 40%. The FTA will raise it further. It is expected to boost trade by $35 billion annually by the year 2035. But the deal has been delayed, mostly because of the crisis in the UK government. Last year, remember, was chaotic for them. Two prime ministers got the boot in quick succession, first Boris Johnson, then Liz Truss. Rishi Sunak began his innings trying to get the house in order. Trade talks only resumed after he met Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi in November last year in Bali. This was during the G20 summit. So talks resumed then and have been making slow but steady progress. But last month, the Khalistani attack took place. India took a tough stance. It condemned the UK's lax approach to Indian security. It demanded that the Khalistanis be deported. And amid those tensions, trade talks got delayed. Since the attack, the UK has taken some steps to placate India. It has stepped up security outside the High Commission in London. It has also arrested the person who tried to desecrate the Indian flag and promised to not be lenient on violent Khalistanis. It can do a lot more, of course. Now, if the trade negotiations continue like usual, it means that New Delhi is taking London at its word. And it also points to a shift in the UK's approach to India. It's now a UK that listens to India's concerns and requests, one that doesn't disregard justified demands from New Delhi, a UK that goes out of its way to accommodate India. Is this a sign that India has arrived on the global stage? Well, yes and no. It's not as simple as that. The UK also needs the trade boost from India. It has been struggling economically since the Ukraine war began. And before that, due to Brexit. So once again, the UK is looking at the Indian subcontinent to fill its coffers. But the change is that India seems to be negotiating from a position of power, like a partner and not a former colony.